Hey, what's up guys? Combat Critique here. In this video, I want to give my pick for this upcoming fight between Anthony Smith and Johnny Walker. So this is a great fight and let's get started. If we talk about the records of these two guys, starting with Anthony Smith, he has 53 fights. So a lot of MMA experience for Anthony Smith. He has won 36 out of his 53 fights and lost 17. This man is really an OG of the game. It is really rare that we see somebody with more than 50 fights. I can, remember Jorge Masvidal and Bobby Green in recent memory that have more than 50 fights, but these guys are really the top 1 percentile of all the UFC fighters. Most of these guys will retire before they reach 50 total fights. And if we talk about the 36 wins, 20 have come via knockout, 14 via submission, and just 2 via decision. So if he wins, it is likely going to be a finish. Anthony Smith is a pretty good fighter. If we talk about the 17 losses, 10 have come via knockout, and this is a case of concern for Anthony Smith. 4 have come via submission, and 3 have come via decision. So this man is really in a lot of exciting fights. Win or lose, he probably gets a finish or gets finished. Very few of his fights have ended in decisions. Now let's talk about Johnny Walker. So he has 27 fights, which is a good amount of fight for MMA. However, it is almost half of the experience of Anthony Lionheart Smith. So significantly less experience in MMA. And out of these 27 fights, he has won 20 and lost 7. Out of these 20 wins, 16 have come via knockout, 3 have come via submission, and just 1 via decision. So this man also, like Lionheart Smith, likely wins by finishing his opponents. Out of these 7 losses that he has, 4 have come via knockout, 1 has come via submission, and 2 via decision. So he also, this is also similar to Lionheart, where most of their losses have come via submissions. This is the case for Johnny Walker as well, and this is a cause of concern. Now let's talk about some of the physical statistics. So height is 6 feet 4 for Anthony Smith, and it is 6 feet 6 for Johnny Walker. So he will have a 2-inch height advantage. Weight will be even at 205 for both these guys, unless somebody misses weight, which I don't think anybody will. Reach is 76 inches for Anthony Lionheart Smith, and it is 82 inches for Johnny Walker. So a huge 6-inch reach advantage goes to Johnny. If we talk about the stance, both these guys are orthodox stance fighters. And if we talk about the age, so Anthony Smith is the older fighter and Johnny Walker is the younger fighter, and this can play a huge role in deciding who will win this fight. Now let's talk about the career statistics, starting with the striking numbers, which is, first of all, we have the strikes landed per minute, which signifies the number of significant strikes that you are able to land on your opponent per minute on average. That is 2.99, almost 3 for Anthony Smith, and it is 3.38 for Johnny Walker. So Johnny Walker is the busier guy on the feet. He will have an advantage. Striking accuracy is 47% for Lionheart Smith, and it is 60% for Johnny Walker. So again, an advantage goes to Johnny. He is the more accurate striker. Strikes absorbed per minute. This is 4.37 for Lionheart Smith. So this signifies the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute on average. And it is 2.6 for Johnny Walker. So in this case, the lower number is better because you are getting hit a lot less. So believe it or not, Johnny Walker has an advantage in this department as well. Striking defense is 42% for Lionheart Smith, and it is 42% even for Johnny Walker. Now let's talk about the wrestling, grappling, and submission statistics. So takedown average is 0.44 for Lionheart Smith, and it is 0.41 for Johnny Walker. So both these guys are pretty even. However, slight advantage goes to Anthony. Takedown accuracy is 27% for Anthony Smith and 100% for Johnny Walker. It is like, I don't think he shot a lot of takedowns in his UFC career. This is why it is 100. It's not like he is really great at wrestling. However, advantage goes to Johnny in this case. Takedown defense is 48% for Anthony Smith, and it is 58% for Johnny Walker. So again, an advantage goes to Johnny in this department as well. Submission average is 0.7 for Lionheart Smith, whereas it is 1.2 for Johnny Walker. So believe it or not, he will have an advantage in the submission as well. This is what the stats have us believe. And overall, if you talk about the submission, wrestling, grappling, everything, I think Johnny Walker, being the younger, more explosive, faster guy, he has an advantage in most of these departments. Now let's talk about some of the previous performances of these two guys, starting with Anthony Smith. So he has fought some of the big names in the division. Like in his last fight, he lost to Magomed Ankalaev via TKO in the second round. This was in July of last year. So he is taking almost a year off from this loss and coming back in 2023, which is good for somebody his age. You don't want to get into a lot of frequent brawls and get TKO'd, get brain injury. Before that, he was on a 3-fight winning streak where he beat Ryan Spann via submission rear naked choke in the first round. He beat Jimmy Crute via TKO. Again, first round, Devin Clark triangle choke in the first round. Before that, he lost to Alexander Rakic and Glover Teixeira. And Rakic he lost via unanimous decision. Glover TKO'd him in the fifth round. This was a pretty good fight between these two guys. Before that, he beat Alexander Gustafsson via rear naked choke in the fourth round. Before that, he fought and lost to John Jones via unanimous decision. This was back in 2019, a 5-round fight. And before that, he beat Volkan Oezdemir via submission rear naked choke in the third round. So this man has faced a lot of top level guys in his division, and this is an advantage for him. He has a lot of experience fighting at the top level. Now let's talk about Johnny Walker. In his last two fights, he won and he beat Paul Craig in his last fight via TKO. In the first round, he beat Ion Cutelaba via rear naked choke also in the first round. His last fight was back in January of this year, so he is making a quick turnaround, quick for a light heavyweight, and he is fighting after like 4 or 5 months. I think this shows that he is training seriously and he doesn't want to wait doesn't want to wait a long time to get his next opponent. Before that, he was on a 2-fight losing streak where he lost to Jamal Hill via knockout and Thiago Santos via unanimous decision. And this loss is a concern. If uh, if this man has to win, Anthony has to win. I think he should try to copy what Thiago Santos did in this fight and win a decision over Johnny Walker. And Johnny Walker, I hope he learned from this loss. Before that, he beat Ryan Spann via knockout in the first round, and again before his last two fights were losses, and he got beat by Nikita Krylov via unanimous decision and Corey Anderson via TKO. Before that, he beat Misha Sarkunov via TKO and Justin Ledev via TKO in the first round. This man has some ups and downs in his career. He wins a fight, then he loses two fights, then he wins two fights, then he loses one fight. So it's kind of like that. So this fight is pretty much, I would say, a 50-50 fight. I can see why somebody might pick Anthony Smith. However, I am going to pick Johnny Walker. I think he is the younger, more explosive guy. I think he might be able to put out Anthony Smith out cold, and Anthony is the older fighter. That is a huge concern for me. If he would have been younger, I would have picked Anthony because Johnny Walker is not really reliable. We don't know whether he's training seriously. I would hope that he is training seriously because he is on a 2-fight winning streak. However, we don't really know for sure. Whereas for Anthony, we know he has trained, he is a pretty serious guy and he takes his training seriously. The only thing that is against him is the fact that he does not have the same level of explosiveness, the same level of power. He's not that young as Johnny Walker, and for these reasons, I am picking Johnny Walker. I think he might knock out Anthony in the second round. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.